Death is the great beyond. All of us end up there, but none of us return. In this video, we'll take a look at the amazing experiences of a woman who claims there is life after death. Jessie Sawyer had a brush with death, and then she emerged with a newfound perspective on life. It was May 2013 when Jessie Sawyer found out she needed a hysterectomy. The news came as no surprise to the young mother of two. Jessie had spent the last 9 months going from doctor to doctor, trying to figure out what was causing her gynecological problems. At first, her symptoms didn't concern her. She was a young and relatively healthy woman. But then the symptoms started to become more and more serious, and the medical tests kept coming back negative. Jessie worked with her team of doctors to try and figure out what was happening to her, but to no avail. They tried everything: tests, medication, even minor medical procedures. Nothing worked. Soon, the young woman became truly concerned about her health, and living her everyday life was becoming increasingly difficult. After all, she had to deal with the massive stress of not knowing what was causing the pain and sickness her body was experiencing, all while managing a family. Each day, she tried to stay strong for her young children and for her husband. To make things worse, some of those months were marred by other personal heartbreaks that would have brought a person to their knees, but Jessie needed to uphold her composure, even when fear made its way in her life. Some days, her husband couldn't even look Jessie in the eyes without crying. He was too afraid of the possibility of losing her. So it's no wonder she said yes when a hysterectomy was reluctantly suggested. Even if it didn't put an end to the symptoms, the doctors told her it would be a great way to give them a better idea about the root of the problems. Jessie said yes. She wasn't afraid of the procedure. It wasn't her first time undergoing surgery. She just wanted the stress, the fear, and the uncertainty to end. She was even willing to accept the pain and the risks associated with any major operation. If anything, she was more concerned about her family. Her recovery was going to be difficult for her young children and for her husband too. In mid-May 2013, the young woman went into surgery for a total abdominal hysterectomy, and then for a second aesthetic procedure. They both went well, and Jessie Sawyer felt as comfortable as possible during her hospital stay. One of her ovaries had to be biopsied, but when the lab results came back, everybody was relieved to hear there was no further need for concern. Jessie managed to keep her upbeat attitude during all of her hospital stay, and 2 nights later, she was released, ready to recover at home, ready to get her life back and start again without the mysterious sickness. But something went terribly wrong. A few hours after arriving home, Jessie felt her pain levels starting to increase dramatically. She tried to sleep it off, but by midnight, the young mother of two was on the floor, screaming in pain. The pain was excruciating, too present and too strong to be properly described with words or ignored. Desperate, her husband rushed the woman to the ER, where Jessie was seen immediately. She could barely speak, and she was on the verge of passing out. Her heart rate was 185, and she had a low-grade fever. Jessie was immediately readmitted to the hospital. It was discovered that she had a paralytic ileus, meaning her intestines weren't moving and were bloating, a complication of the anesthesia. Her belly was also full of blood, which meant Jessie was bleeding internally. For the following days, Jessie Sawyer experienced horrible pain. She was weakened, hanging to life by a thread. Her husband never left her side, and the doctors and nurses kept a close watch on her. Jessie knew she was deadly sick. She wasn't allowed to eat or drink in case she needed to be rushed into surgery. But, as it turned out, her body was too fragile for another surgery anyway. The woman couldn't even breathe without agony overtaking her body, but still, she was told to walk as much as she could. Her condition was stable but dangerously low, and she couldn't sleep. When she managed to close her eyes for a couple of minutes, the young mother dreamt only of pain and terror, usually scaring herself awake, until one night when everything changed. That night, when Jessie opened her eyes, she thought it was the usual bout of anxiety waking her up from her tormented sleep. But she soon realized there was no pain, no feeling of dread or excruciating pain. And then she noticed she wasn't in her hospital room anymore. She was somewhere that wasn't really a place. There was a bright white light engulfing her senses. No walls, no floor, just endless white space. Jessie was standing up, which hadn't happened in several days, and she was cured. Her body wasn't sick anymore. Then she noticed another thing, or better said, she noticed a person. It was Anthony, one of her best friends. He was waiting for her. When she approached, Anthony touched her shoulders and looked Jessie in the eyes. She was so happy to see her friend, but then she remembered a crucial detail. Anthony was dead and had been so for years, which meant she was dead too, and Anthony was there to take her home. A shimmer appeared, and Jessie realized it was a heavenly light, unlike any other she had ever seen on Earth. It was an endless light, one filled with unconditional love. A feeling of warmth and safety spread through Jessie's body, and the young woman almost made up her mind about going into the light. But then she remembered her husband, who had been sleeping on a tiny couch near her hospital bed for the past few days. Instead of going with Anthony into the eternal light, Jessie decided to go back to her family. The woman fell back into her body, which hurt. Soon after her near-death experience, Jessie Sawyer miraculously recovered. Doctors told her she had been walking the line between life and death for a while. This was all the confirmation Jessie needed. She died and came back, and there had been something warm and bright awaiting her after death. After her experience, the woman stated she no longer fears death. She knows there is something more, even though she doesn't exactly believe in God. But Jessie's experience isn't a singular occurrence. In fact, near-death experiences are more common than most of us think. Near-death experiences are also known as NDEs. Despite the differences in some of these experiences, there are some common themes that emerge. Many people who have had near-death experiences report feeling a sense of universal love and connection, and a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, the way Jessie did. Some people who have had near-death experiences also report having mystical or spiritual experiences, such as seeing God or other religious figures, or receiving messages from a higher power. There are many theories about what causes near-death experiences, and there is still much we don't know. Some scientists believe that these experiences are simply hallucinations or dreams that occur when the brain is deprived of oxygen. Others suggest that they are the result of chemical changes in the brain, or the release of endorphins that can produce feelings of euphoria and peace. Some people believe that near-death experiences are evidence of an afterlife and that they provide a glimpse into what happens to us after we die. Regardless of the cause, near-death experiences have had a profound impact on the lives of many people. But what do you think really happened to Jessie? Let us know in the comments.